What if the person God chose to save an entire nation was someone nobody expected? She wasn't born into royalty. She didn't command an army. She wasn't the richest or the most powerful woman in the kingdom. She was an orphan, a young Jewish girl named Esther. Yet through her courage, faith, and obedience, God used her to save an entire nation from destruction. This is the incredible story of Queen Esther. More than 2,000 years ago, the Persian Empire stretched across 127 provinces, making it the largest kingdom in the world. Its ruler was King Ahasuerus, also known as Xerxes. His palace was filled with gold, marble, and unimaginable wealth. One day, the king held a magnificent banquet lasting 180 days to display the greatness of his empire. At the end of the celebration, he called for Queen Vashti to appear before his guests. But Queen Vashti refused. Her decision shocked the entire kingdom. Furious, the king removed her from the throne. Soon, servants searched throughout the empire for a new queen. Among the thousands of young women brought to the palace was Esther. She was beautiful, kind, wise. But Esther carried a secret. She was Jewish. Raised by her cousin Mordecai after losing both of her parents, Esther learned from childhood to trust God in every circumstance. Mordecai warned her not to reveal her nationality, so Esther quietly entered the palace, trusting God's plan. Out of all the women, the king favored Esther above everyone else. He placed the royal crown upon her head. The orphan had become queen. But God wasn't finished. At the palace gates worked Mordecai. One day he overheard two officials plotting to assassinate the king. Immediately he informed Esther. Esther reported the plot to the king, and the conspirators were arrested. The event was recorded in the royal chronicles. Then another man entered the story. His name was Haman. He became the highest-ranking official in the kingdom. The king commanded everyone to bow before him. Everyone obeyed. Everyone except Mordecai. Mordecai refused to bow because his loyalty belonged to God alone. Haman was furious. His pride turned into hatred. When he discovered Mordecai was Jewish, he decided not only to kill Mordecai, but to destroy every Jewish person throughout the empire. He manipulated the king into signing a royal decree, ordering that on a specific day, every Jew in the kingdom would be killed. The decree spread quickly. Fear filled every Jewish home. Families wept. Cities mourned. Mordecai tore his clothes and covered himself with ashes as a sign of grief. When Esther learned what had happened, she sent a message asking what was wrong. Mordecai replied with words that would echo through history. Do not think that because you are in the king's palace you alone will escape, and who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Those words pierced Esther's heart. She realized that becoming queen had never been an accident. God had placed her exactly where she needed to be. But there was one problem. No one could approach the king without an invitation. Anyone who entered the throne room uninvited faced immediate execution, unless the king extended his golden scepter. Esther had not been called to see the king for 30 days. Walking into the throne room could cost her life. She faced an impossible choice: remain silent and save herself, or risk everything to save her people. Esther made her decision. She sent a message back to Mordecai. Gather all the Jews and fast for me for 3 days. I and my attendants will fast as well. Then I will go to the king. And if I perish, I perish. After 3 days of prayer and fasting, Esther put on her royal robes. Every step toward the throne room required tremendous courage. The guards watched. The palace became silent. The king looked toward the entrance. For a brief moment, everything stood still. Then the king smiled. He stretched out his golden scepter. Esther's life was spared. The king welcomed her and asked, "What is your request, Queen Esther? Even up to half my kingdom, it will be given to you." Instead of speaking immediately, Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet. At the banquet, she invited them to another banquet the following day. Haman left feeling honored, but when he saw Mordecai refusing to bow once again, his anger returned. That night, something remarkable happened. The king could not sleep. He ordered the royal records to be read aloud. As they read, the king discovered that Mordecai had once saved his life but had never been rewarded. The very next morning, Haman entered the palace planning to request Mordecai's execution. Before he could speak, the king asked, "What should be done for the man whom the king delights to honor?" Thinking the king meant him, Haman described an extravagant public celebration. The king smiled and said, "Excellent. Do exactly that." For Mordecai, Haman was humiliated. He was forced to lead the man he hated through the city, proclaiming his honor. Later that day, Haman attended Haman's second banquet.
Finally, Esther revealed the truth. "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, spare my life, and spare my people, for we have been sold to destruction." The king was shocked. Who would dare do such a thing? Esther pointed directly at Haman, the adversary. "Is this wicked Haman?" The king's anger exploded. Haman was arrested and sentenced to death on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. The decree against the Jews was overturned. Instead of destruction, God brought deliverance. Instead of mourning, there was celebration. Instead of fear, there was victory. The Jewish people were saved. And to remember this miraculous deliverance, the Feast of Purim is still celebrated today. The story of Esther reminds us that God is always working behind the scenes, even when his name is never mentioned. Every closed door, every delay, every unexpected opportunity may be part of a much greater purpose. Like Esther, you may wonder why God has placed you exactly where you are today. Perhaps your current situation is preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine. Sometimes one act of courage can change countless lives. One decision of faith can alter history. One ordinary person can become the answer to someone else's prayer. Never underestimate what God can do through a willing heart, because just like Esther, you may have been placed exactly where you are for such a time as this.